You're listening to the Adventurous Weirdos podcast by WatcherDM. Learn more at WatcherDM.com or come join our Patreon at patreon.com/WatcherDM. Stay weird. Hi. Welcome to the Adventurous Weirdos podcast by WatcherDM. I'm Gabriel Hernandez.
I'm Alicia.
Yeah, Alicia with no last name.
Nope. You can look for it in the credits.
Yeah. Talk to my lawyer. Cool. And yeah, this is episode 4 of the Adventurous Weirdos podcast. Austin Holm couldn't make it today. He is traveling to visit family for the Thanksgiving holiday. And so Alicia has been so kind as to take his spot sitting next to me and rambling at you for the next 50-something minutes, if she can hold it down. If I can hold it down.
You can hold it down.
I'll hold it down for both of us?
Yeah.
All right.
Not that I'm not a ramble, but
yeah.
Someone's got to drive the bus.
I'm a rambling man. Yeah, so I guess the first thing we should probably do is tell people a little bit about what you do, aka have done, for WatcherDM and the products that they are, hopefully love. You love our products. Subliminal.
Right. Yeah, I started with a bit of editing, and moved on to doing editing and layout, and on the one-page adventure modules. It's kind of where I got my start.
Right.
It's a pretty condensed format,
What was the first one that you did?
Wait, the moon one.
Not Destination Moon Palace?
Destination Moon Palace. Not Moon Elves, but yeah. Destination Moon Palace.
Yeah, I remember I did the art for that. I did some art for that one too. That was really fun.
Yeah, I think we had a bit of extra space, so you did one of the
So the hallmark of Alicia's editing actually is that we had
choppy.
Yeah. Oh, you think your words are clever, huh, writer? Let me get the scissors. Close your eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, you drew one of the ice devils.
Yeah, so actually it's not even I don't even think it's considered an ice devil. It's like a.
But it was icy.
Yeah, so totally.
You go through the portal.
Maybe it is an ice devil.
To hell.
But it's like a bug ice devil.
One of the bug ones.
Really weird. Yeah.
I don't remember which monster.
It's one of my favorite things about demonological and devil lore is that it's all kinds of weird shit. I think the Hezrau is like an ape and a toad. And there's the badger toad, and there's all kinds of weird. If you look at medieval devil art, they were just oh yeah, no, it's part beaver, it's part fish, and it got fangs and it's got titties, and you're like, Jesus, dude.
They just needed people to understand that it was an abomination.
Yeah,
onto
totally.
this earth. Yeah, you drew one of those devils, and there was some hellfire or whatever. I think I remember calling you on it, it could be better, and you were like, yeah, okay, fine, and then you totally made this awesome picture after that.
Sounds about right. So this is actually the real reason that Alicia has helped me is because every time I've shown her something, she was like, "Really? You're gonna go out with that?" And has called me out on I think substandard quality.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a detail-oriented person, and I think I have an eye for design. So I'll just be like, it doesn't look right. And we'll try to figure it out. Should I be closer?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. You're pretty far away. That's why I was asking.
Oh yeah, no. Well, I've got a huge
booming voice.
Yeah, it fills.
I'm a low talker.
All right. Well, yeah. So and then doing the editing in the one pagers, you then helped me with the layout for what is, I think, our biggest project to date.
Drawn from the
margins.
Yeah.
And Drawn from the Margins was, I think it's 74 pages. And I had gotten largely through what I thought the layout should kind of be. And then you came in and made it.
It was also the first Troika one that I had worked on.
Right, big
So
Troika.
I was like, okay, how does Troika work? How are they doing this?
Which is another cool thing, is that you kind of came into this with fresh, not a ton of opinions about role-playing games, because you're fairly new to role-playing.
Mm-hmm.
games in general, but then you also were like, well, academic papers have
Technical documents.
Requirements
Yeah.
for how you portray information.
Formatting.
There must be something like this in role playing.
Yeah.
And then you found out, no, it's just a bunch of fucking clowns. Internally inconsistent.
There are some conventions, I think, sort of.
There try to be.
Yeah.
I think, there's an effort to make conventions. I remember when I did the DM Dave class about adventure writing, he was like, only ever use bold for monsters, like when you're referring to a monster, and only the first time in a paragraph. And I was like, okay. And then I found other reasons to use bold.
Sure.
And other reasons to use italics. It's like...
I think consistency within a document is the best you can do.
Pretty much. Also, though, I think, like, there's a certain level of, like, when the tools you have are bold, italics, and both, you got, it's like you got to stretch the tools that you have. I kind of wish that there was, like, more options for emphasizing text than just that. And then, of course, you go the other direction, like Morkborg, where is it italic? Is it, bold? Can you tell? Can you read it? Because they've just, like, gone so far into the art side of it. It's like each character is, like, in its own font.
Yes.
Yeah. Opinions about Morkborg? It's a little too early.
Unreadable.
Which is not to say that it's unusable, but it is largely unusable as written. And congratulations to them for selling their art projects as a role-playing game, I think. Like, if you need a market, you're not going to sell... Like, I don't think anybody was looking to buy, death metal art as a book.
Sure.
Like, that's probably not... The market for that is relatively small. I don't know how many people who listen to death metal love to read. Just making enemies on all
Wow. Rude.
I actually love death metal.
Yeah.
And I like to read, so yeah, that stabs at myself. But yeah, like the idea that they were able to kind of take like a D&D for this is the D&D the 80s warned you about. This is what the Satanic Panic would have been talking about had there been any validity to its claims. That was kind of the pitch they were making as
really?
an art punk. Yeah, as an art punk product.
They tried way too hard.
I think that's an opinion. Like, that's a valid opinion. I don't know.
Save
like
the atomic age singers for your English homework.
Well, but like it's kind of like that thing you always tell me about. If you can just do things with all of the courage of a mediocre white man, you'll probably be fine as long as nobody finds out that you're not white.
Are they not?
Oh no, they're super white.
Okay.
They're just Finnish dudes.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Finnish and death metal, not surprising.
But tryhards, right? Mediocre tryhards.
Sure.
Probably. I mean, just like the rest of us at some level. Layout and editing. Yeah. So what was it like learning role-playing game layout ideologies? What did you do to kind of spin up in that regard?
For editing, there's... Because we started with 5e stuff, so 5th SRD, I was like, just get an idea of the monsters and the rules and, like, stuff like that. So anytime something came up where I was like, I don't know what that means, I had a document to reference and read about it. And then, consult my local expert, where I'd be like, does this make sense? Like, as a DM, would you do this? Like, do these rolls make sense? Does this damage make sense? Because, like, there's that kind of nuance. Like, you don't get just from the rule set. You have to actually either have played or been a DM to, kind of get that stuff. So, not afraid to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to ask somebody who does.
Which is, that's kind of the big, I think that's the thing that, like, most DMs, like, starting out don't realize is that it's okay to ask. Mm-hmm. It's like, but also who do you ask? Like, if you're the group's DM and you're I picked up a book and I convinced my friends to play with me.
Right.
I've read the book. It's still unclear. I don't know what I'm doing. luckily they, so you have the internet nowadays,
Right.
So you can go
forums and yada
yeah,
yada.
you can go watch some of our YouTube videos. We've got, and then you got Matt Colville out there and Sly Flourish, and they've made libraries of how to run the game as a dungeon master. If you can stomach watching mediocre white guys on the internet talking about their hobby.
There's just some like skills you just can't get from reading a book, though. Like, so I think that's part of what I brought from like doing actual physical science was like, you should just ask the people around you who are also doing the same thing and like presumably have a handle on what they're doing, because on some level it's like dangerous not to.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to find it on Google. Like, just be like,
Or you're going to find too much on Google.
oh, no,
Right.
like this is like the kind of super technical academia bullshit that you're not.
Or like, I think what you would find on the internet right now, if you went and searched for it and you found anything, is you would find either not enough opinions, or you would find a number of vastly divergent opinions about layout for TTRPGs. Because it exists. Like, the conversation about it exists. Right.
Oh, I was talking about like actually doing science.
Oh, actually doing science.
You don't Google.
You don't Google for science.
Some of that stuff. You just like, you ask someone if your setup is okay or if it's gonna blow up the lab. Like.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, but yeah, the layout stuff, like too. Like, I think it's like art. Like, you can consult things for reference for maybe like wanting something to look a certain way, or like kind of get an idea about how people do these things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, ultimately you kind of have to pick a stream because it's not all the same. It's vastly different. So. Yeah.
And then after doing some work in layout for us and editing, you went on to film the Headstrong Cute Troika live play, actual play,
yeah,
with me, and played for, what was it, like 11 episodes, or it was something like that.
It was a decent amount.
It was they were short. They were like
several weeks worth.
They were like an hour at a time,
mm-hmm.
but you were the only player, so it was nice. We were able to kind of pop through content, pretty fast. What did you think of that experience? How was it playing? First of all, I guess in a recorded environment, is that something that I think you had never done before? I don't think I had ever. I had only like dabbled in it. How'd you find it?
It was really fun. I really liked Troika.
Same.
And I had never actually played like a solo like TTRPG before, so like there are a lot of things, especially if you're new. You can kind of like rely on the rest of the party carrying some weight for you, like literally and figuratively.
Talking about the porter.
Yeah.
Hey, will you carry this? I would be honored.
Oh my god, Jesse was such a good porter for that game.
Jesse Brown is one of our authors, and he played a porter in one of our Troika games.
He was just like, "Please, sir, give me more."
Please, sir, do you have anything heavy I can carry for you?
So good.
It's fantastic.
But yeah, I was kind of like, okay, no, like, I'm actually just on my own. I have to, like, figure this out. And, like, Troika was really brutal. Like, I was really frustrated by a lot of stuff because I just was straight up dying or, like, rolling poorly, not having a good time. But, ultimately it was fine. Like, I was just sort of nervous about being like, is this okay? Like, I'm obviously, like, pissed or frustrated on camera. Like, is that fine?
Sometimes people get pissed and frustrated at the table. Like, I think that's a natural...
I'm human.
Yeah, that's a natural reaction. Like, I think the surface area of emotions you can experience during a game are the ranges that you're going to feel. So, the more kind of frustrated you feel in one moment is the kind of equal amount of victory you're going to feel in another when you overcome that frustration. Mm-hmm. Also, I think we whipped out some pretty, progressive homebrew rules for kind of getting through.
Being a solo player.
Yeah, being a solo player. You're right. You could have died easily.
I did die.
You did die. But then it was just like, okay, well...
We managed to save it.
Well, I think largely what I just said is like death is just going to be like you are left for dead. Yeah. You wake up unconscious, or you wake up from being unconscious.
I think we did roll for it though, and I did succeed.
You rolled your luck. Yeah, it was like a luck test.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, one of the variant rules even in Troika book, or it was online somewhere. It was like, if Troika's too deadly, which it definitely can be.
Yeah, that like lizard guy wasted me, and I was just
Lizard men are fucking
so upset.
Yeah, they're stalked.
Because I tried to run, and I
think I only had one of them on the table too. There was like only one lizard guy running around this jungle, and he was nonstop. And then I remember you being terrified of the tigers. You were like super trying to avoid these tigers, without realizing that they're like palace tigers. They're like they're just lazy, self-absorbed royal cats that happen to come from a lineage of tigers. And so I was playing into their palace tiger nature of kind of self-licking and laying around and expecting servants to do everything for them, like, bring me a mouse,
But then I tried to play with one for too long, and then it basically like swept my face off. That sucked.
That does happen. Yeah.
I must have touched its belly. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, yeah, that was a fun experience doing the Headstrong Cute. So you can go check that out on our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Actually,
what I really liked was that you came up with a ton of tables to roll on, which ended up being really fun.
Yeah, I've been meaning to publish those. I have, I used the map from Nate Tremay for Chapultepec. He has a little hex map.
Right, yeah.
Called Chapultepec.
Yeah.
And so I think if you go to nathantremay.com or go to his itch.io page, you can actually go download the Chapultepec hex map. And it's funny, it's got a little car on it. Like, there's just a little random car. And so, yeah, when you ran into it, I decided that it was the wizard's Volvo.
Yeah.
Like, how he got to this world, or this sphere. And he's from Earth. And he became a wizard after he got here. And when you found his Volvo, and he found... You kind of led him back to his Volvo, and he just ran off and like blared 80s music throughout like the rest of the campaign. You would just hear like... Just
had a reawakening.
Yeah, just totally Journey blazing, and then some Guns N' Roses. It was fun. Super fun.
Yeah, check it out for the end.
Yeah. That's right. You got your ending, didn't you?
It was so good.
Oh, nice. I'm glad you felt that way. I really enjoyed it too. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then we also we ended up playing a ton of Quest Crawl.
Yeah.
We had been I had been developing a Roll20 board for Quest Crawl for a few months. Mm-hmm. And during that time, Alicia you were absolutely critical in helping me find bugs and fix stuff and make sure it was working correctly. So that was super fun. I don't think we've ever played anything with that much consistency and kind of rigor. We were in it. Yeah,
I mean, that's part of the development process, right? You just gotta...
But I don't think anything that we've ever done has ever received that much playtesting as we did with Quest Crawl. We played it a few times before, like at least a few times before it went out the door during the one-page RPG jam in which we made it. Yeah. But then even after that, we continued playing it for months. It was just like pretty regularly we would jump into something and play some Quest Crawl. And I think we played it, I played it as recently as a few weeks ago. It was Austin and Chelsea, and I went upstairs and laid down the cards and played some Quest Crawl.
I don't know, it was just really nice to do it on Roll20 because like you don't have to deal with like the physical limitations of like spacing the cards out.
Yeah.
And that like, we could walk away from it and come back to the same game.
Yeah. That was huge.
Sometimes you just die like really early on.
That's true. It's true.
And where we're like, let's just back this up. And I think that wasn't there a way to like randomize the cards? So even though we had already flipped them, like the same like a map was there, but the next flip was like not going to be the same card in the same place.
Yeah, so one of the first things I had programmed was an island generator, and I had programmed it in such a way that you could provide a seed, and the seed could either like it could be for the shape or for the order of the cards or for both. And so you could have like a one seed for the shape of the island and have random card list throughout that. Or you could have the consistent card list and the shape, which was huge for being able to like replay a known world if you wanted to like replay an existing or known world, or come back to a game after it had been, you know, blown away. Like if you had the ID, you could come back. It was pretty cool. Also being able to just generate random worlds and like see them all and go like, oh damn, that looks freaking cool. One of my favorite things to do actually at the time was to just generate worlds with all the cards up, and I would post these tweets of like what the story was, because like the way that the cards lay out kind of tell a little bit of a story. Like if the vault's in the northwest and the you know, unearthed evil is in front of it, it's like the unearthed evil has swallowed up the vault and is keeping treasure away from everybody, and the elves are, you know, have fled to the southeast and are living in seclusion, while the dwarves are like really close to the hometown and like kind of have a thumb on the humans, or whatever, you know, like whatever the layout would tell you. I thought it was really neat.
I think it was good, at least for me, because we just made new characters every time, so it was kind of like exercising that muscle of like coming up with a character, and then like as we're playing, we maybe come up with backstory, and same with just coming up with the terrible beastie descriptions, like just exercising that improv muscle, you know. That's pretty fun.
It is a great improv muscle game. I agree. Especially, I think somebody had mentioned wanting to get more into the quest system with it. They were like, because there's a video, by the way, of how to play this game. And if you go and like and subscribe on it, you'll be entered into a contest to win a copy of this game, which is around here somewhere. Hold on.
Oh, over here.
Yeah, let's show you what we're talking about.
Little bookie loo.
Little bookie loo. Quest crawl. Oh. Quest crawl. And he was saying that, you should cover more about the quest system. And I was like, there isn't much to cover. The quest system is basically like, you just declare your quest, and then when you get to your queen, you have accomplished your quest, which I think is fine. But I know in the new, so we're working on a revision of this game that will include side quests, and I'm very much looking forward to that. It's going to have dungeons and side quests and classes. It's going to be pretty fun. So I'm excited to play test Advanced Quest Crawl with you.
Right, yeah.
I think we're going to call it. Should we call it Advanced Quest Crawl? Sound off in the comments. Let us know. Tell us what you think. Should we call it Quest Crawl 2? Advanced Quest Crawl? Or Crest Crawl even crawlier?
Is it advanced or reference to some like D&D?
Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was the second. So there was Dungeons and Dragons, and then there was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. It's kind of a joke.
What number?
That was the first. Oh, that was the first. There was like Dungeons and Dragons, and then there was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
And then there was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition.
Okay.
And then Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition.
Okay.
Up to 5th edition. So they went back to Dungeons and Dragons and got rid of the Advanced.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. But Gary Gygax was like, I'm making an Advanced Dungeons and Dragons so that I don't have to pay David Arneson any money for Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that literally is. In fact, it's kind of some interesting reading. At some point we'll have to get into it. These two books right here, Playing at the World and Empire of Imagination, are the story of the creation of the role-playing game hobby, kind of through the story of Gary Gygax, David Arneson, and those early players in the 70s who were doing the first kind of progressions from wargaming into role-playing games and tabletop role-playing games. Pretty good stuff. It's interesting. It's actually what I want to do with Drunk History Check. I have the drunkhistorycheck.com
right, that
domain name that at some point I want to do doing the retelling like Drunk History of the stories of Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson, but like as drunk people. You know, like Jack Black does.
You're going to have to find some people who actually know those stories.
No, they're in the book. I've got books with these stories in them.
Sure, you're going to be like, read this, now get drunk.
No, we'll script it. We'll figure it out.
Sure.
Yeah, and then we'll get drunk. Cool. Well, yeah, so what was it like playtesting a new role-playing game that like had been invented
Oh, Questcraft?
with you? Yeah. But as a new player, like, because you were new to role-playing games at the time.
Yeah.
So, what was your take on that process? Because I'll tell you, as somebody old hat coming in, I was absolutely blown away at how often your insights were like, oh yeah, I wouldn't have thought to have to explain that, but it makes perfect sense if you don't know, you know. It's like there's so many things so much baggage that we bring to the table with our existing history of role-playing games.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that came out more in the editing than the playtesting.
Sure.
Because, like, I really combed those rules with you. And also just, like, having the constraint of the one page. You know, I was kind of like, we need to be really succinct with this. But also, like, yeah, you are taking advantage of being like, well, this just makes sense to me because of your experience with games. And I'm like, but you've made this entirely new game that you want to be accessible to people who maybe have never played. And I'm, you know, one of those people, and this does not make sense to me. Like, I would be at a loss for what to do in this situation or whatever. Like, we have to be really, really clear about how the rules work. And even then, like, people still get confused or, like, interpret them the way they want to or whatever. Yeah. So
it's one of the reasons that I want to do a more advanced version of the game is because right now, like, yeah, we have the one-page version that, you know, technically complied with the rules of the original, and then I took those rules and, like, I didn't even expand them, really. I just kind of gave them room and art in this version, in this print version. But, like, going through and kind of clearing up any of that mystery around, because some of the rules are so tight and succinct, and I remember going back and forth over some of these, like, even the first, like, island creation. Place a joker in the play area. This is the starting town. Name it. Shuffle the deck. Roll for who goes first. Play moves clockwise with each player placing face-down cards. Cards must touch other cards in the play area. See diagram. Used a diagram because it was literally... We went back and forth on it too many times. Like, how do you talk about connecting cards in a square card game? Create any shape, but include holes and gaps. Make it interesting. Once all cards are placed, the island is complete. Name it. Like, within this here, there's already roll for who goes first. What do you mean? Like, does everybody roll and the highest goes first?
Sure, yeah.
It's like...
We literally didn't have the space.
We didn't have the space.
Yeah. It all had to fit on that one page front and back.
Right.
Yeah.
The cool thing about this is I was given room to do, like, a full diagram.
Yeah.
So I had, like, the full diagram of an island, which was super useful. But, like, I remember the play procedures we had gone through probably... it must have been 30 different revisions of play procedures, and then having to put in dead characters when Austin was like, oh, the characters have to be able to die. Like, we have to deal with, okay, we got to give them resurrection. And I was like,
what does that mean?
Oh my God. So yeah, just going back and forth on the rules for that. Contending with minimalism as a constraint, I think, is one of the things that I've enjoyed probably the most, though, in the process of doing all these games that we've published. Mm-hmm. Like, all of our 5e stuff is that 2-page format, and the objective there was actually to, like, take what I often perceive as, like, excess. Like, as a DM who doesn't want to spend the rest of my life reading some guy's prose about how a dungeon smells, you know, I want the details, like, kind of as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And I want it to be punchy and evocative and get my imagination working so that I can do the rest.
Right, yeah.
And I find that published works tend to just really drag on, and they have a lot of, like, boilerplate stuff that I don't necessarily care about or that I can, like, get in brief. And so the whole point behind those 5e 2-pagers was to shrink wrap that, really get it down to just the juiciest bits. But even then, it's super hard. You, like, every author has their voice, mm-hmm. and they want to sound voicey, and you're like, and then you see something like Arcane Library where she's just like bullet points. Everything is a bullet point. She's written it, rewritten it 7 or 8 times to get it down to just bullet points. And you're like, God, man, if I could bottle that kind of spirit and make my writers drink it.
It's okay. You got me. I'm the chopper.
I know,
I'm the chopper.
You're my chopper.
You asked the right person to do this for you.
It's true. But I think I don't ask for enough rewrites. There's definitely, like...
Oh, yeah. It should. There's... Things could be done before it got to you or got to me, but like at the end of the day, if that's the goal you want to accomplish, then like we make it happen. Yeah,
and I think like we have good examples of it. Like Longbear Valley is probably one of the most terse, refined. It's like 20 hexes in 2 pages, and it's pretty crystal clear what's happening in the whole adventure without it's not trying to lead you down the road. It's giving you enough stuff to imagine what could happen, and then as a DM anyway, I feel like it's fairly supported. But then again, there's room in there. Like there's a dungeon that's described but not really like filled out. There's like the what's her name, Isidra or Elite.
I don't know. You guys were working on like an expanded version though.
So we're working on a Troika version that includes the dungeon and there's like 2 dungeons. I think.
Because there's the dam, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's the dam, and then there's the dungeon where the fire elemental is.
Okay. The really long tunnel.
Yeah. But yeah, like, and one of the things I love about that whole concept too is that like we can take these adventures that we've kind of crystallized down and go, okay, like where can we expand it now and make that fuller, more complete piece of content? Because I think it doesn't happen too often, like, in terms of being able to test something with an audience and then going back with it and going like, okay, now we can really invest in making it happen for, maybe a better game system for it or whatever. So I think we're lucky in being able to do that. What about you? What do you think?
About what?
About the games that you've played with us. You've played a bunch of playtests for 5e.
Yeah.
What's your favorite module so far?
Gosh. Wake Up Sheeple was pretty fun.
Wake Up Sheeple was pretty good.
Because we had like the whole gang together at that point,
yeah.
And like we did it. It really, I don't know. We beat the pants off that one. Like kind of hit all the marks and had fun with it. So it's
a good adventure too. It's funny.
I think that was like I had never played a rogue before.
Oh right.
But I figured it out real quickly. Like how the best way to play a rogue, I guess, was like, yeah, don't try to come in there guns blazing, like
Or if you do, hit and then disengage and run.
Yeah, disengage, and then like you're just like, and then you leave.
Yeah. That's cool.
But it worked out. Like the party was supportive, and like I think just everybody worked really well as a team, and I got to figure out how to be a rogue.
Nice. What was your memorable moment in that adventure? Most memorable moment?
Stuff was falling apart. There was like those carpet bog ooze things coming at us, and I was like scrambling up the slope trying to get the shard.
Yeah.
And I got it.
You got it. You got the Celestial Library.
But like it was hairy. I definitely had to roll for some stuff, and I succeeded, but I also could have easily gotten eaten by a bog muncher.
Yeah. The bog munchers were shambling mounds. They were like what was that stuff, like lily pads and shit on the surface of this thing?
I thought it was just like mossy.
It was moss. Okay,
I don't know. It was gross and terrifying.
Yeah,
I don't remember what they were called. I just made something up.
What was your least favorite gaming experience so far?
I'm trying to think of what we've played that was not great. I guess Drawn from the Margins was a close second. I'm still thinking about good ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Drawn from the Margins was deadly. It was so deadly. I remember we lost like 3 characters at the beginning, like early in that game.
Yeah.
But you played the useful creature. which was the coolest fucking
I prevailed,
thing.
yeah.
You were just like the Rambo of that game. It was amazing.
Yeah, no, it was really sad. We like lost our cat fan and stuff. Okay, so I guess worse than Morkborg was pretty bad. But also, what was that? We played like a pre-baked adventure. Did we play Tunnel Goons or something?
We did play Tunnel Goons at one point.
And it was pretty wah-wah, you know, like...
I felt the same way about Tunnel Goons. Actually, I think I liked Tunnel Goons less than I liked Morkborg. But I also get what they were doing with Tunnel Goons. And it works for what they were trying to do.
It might have just been that adventure, but I just remember it being pretty like, I'm over it.
Yeah,
it was weak.
Yeah, I think it was like it's like a good like D&D replica for like if you're on a train ride. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're busing from one city to another and you have nothing to do and you got a D6.
This tiny piece of paper.
Yeah, you're like, oh, okay, we're gonna kick down the door and we're gonna hold on, I gotta go to the bathroom. You know, I'm gonna eat some Cheetos. Okay, like kick down the door. Oh, goblins. You know, or whatever. But it did not have support. I think that was the thing that I felt like
super unclear.
It was just like there's no rules for basically anything. It's just you can hit or you can hit. I think that was like it's.
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, it was like so it was kind of all to the DM to figure out what you could do, and I remember because you were trying to run. It was like the first thing, as you were like, "Oh, it's a giant rat. I run," and I was like, "Shit, there's literally no rules for running."
Right.
Like, okay, I guess you just run, which, whatever. Like, Troika kind of has the same problem, right? Where it's I think the rules for running are literally just, you both roll a run, and if they beat you, they chase you down.
Like, you slipped on a banana peel.
No, they just, faster than you, they were able to catch up. But that doesn't really handle, do they catch up and hit you? Or do they, unclear. And I feel like it's weird because if I look at just regular video games, role-playing game video games, in the base move set of every character, you've got flee, right? You've got attack, you've got item, and sometimes you've got magic.
Okay.
And this is the base kit. It's everybody kind of, and then you'll have a special character who can steal. And you'll have a special character who can summon. It's you'll have abilities like that. But right there is flee. And usually the rules for flee cook down to you throw some gold. You throw enough treasure or food to distract them while you flee. And if you're powerful enough, you can basically flee and they won't. You don't need to leave any treasure.
You just outrun them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's a pretty good rule for fleeing. It's a pretty good system for fleeing, but I don't think I've ever seen a tabletop role playing game just be if you want to flee from monsters, you better ditch some treasure or rations or both. But I think that's a really smart. In fact, I think I baked it it's one of the rules that I'm suggesting for Quest Crawl with the dungeon tipping stuff. Because, I think fleeing should be its own rule set.
It's pretty important.
Pretty important if you have the right kind of players.
I mean, the number one rule of self-defense is if you have a way to escape the situation, do that first. Don't engage.
In fantasy games, that's not necessarily the most...
Sure.
But in OSR, I think it definitely shows up more frequently as one of the options on the table. But even OSE didn't really have... We played an OSE game for... It was probably a couple months. Every week.
Yeah, I don't remember. I felt like it lasted a long time, but also didn't.
Yeah. We played...
That happens a lot.
Yeah. So we played The Lost City. We were playing... Well, first we played... Where did we play the first adventure? What was The Lost City, wasn't it?
Yeah, I joined later, and you guys had already started.
Right.
Yeah,
started. You came in the second session.
I think so, yeah. It was still pretty early on.
Yeah. But, our friend Ben was running at Droxel in Vancouver and Kitsilano. Is it Droxel?
Drexel. It's with an E.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
And he ran the Lost City module, I think is B1. And it was really cool. I was actually really surprised with how much fun I had playing in that adventure.
Yeah, it was fun.
Your character survived the longest, didn't you? You survived.
I didn't die, yeah.
You didn't die even once.
My little halfling, little Razzo.
I think I died like twice.
Razzo Wanderfoot.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think you got the magic item too. You ended up coming out with a magic item.
Maybe? I don't remember.
But in that, I remember, I think we fled a couple of times, and it was pretty unclear what the rules for fleeing were.
I think I was able to flee at some point because I was doing ranged attacks.
Right, you're far enough away that you just back
Yeah,
off.
that I was like allowed to disengage. But the people who died were the ones who were like right up in there.
Yeah, that was me.
They were desperate to get the treasure, and I was just like, "Ooh, guys, these guys are way overpowered. Are you sure about that?"
Now you're part of the treasure. Yeah.
Basically, we had to go back and loot their corpses later.
Yep, I remember going back
because they had some important stuff we needed. We had to go get it.
Yeah, and then we fought so there was a banshee down there.
Yeah, that was the
first thing that took a bunch of us out.
First pretty harsh. It wasn't a total party kill, but, you know.
And then we were heading back from that. Because we had lost most of our hirelings.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And we were heading back from that, and we found a room with some skeletons and a guy that was like, oh, I'm the champion. And so we all attacked the champion, who turned out to be just literally a statue, while the 9 skeletons in the room like, just started clawing us to pieces.
Yeah,
it was terrible.
It was bad.
And my elf died.
I think only 2 people survived.
It was like you and Victoria.
I think so.
Victoria's character.
Yeah.
Pretty fun though. But one of the things I dislike about OSE that I found anyway, and I mitigated this problem by just going to Total Party Kill, but character creation.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's how we make my character.
Yeah, like making a character at the table with the rules of D&D is kind of a pain, even for old school. And especially for old school, like, there's rules, like, I remember in the last fight, I was playing Evan, and I got hit by the Wraith, and he level drained me. And I, like, lost a fucking level.
Yeah,
and I was
so
like,
much XP wasted.
but, like, I had to, like, go through my character sheet and lose a level, which is, like...
How do you do that?
Super painful. And then, it was just like, how do you do that? And like, having to do it all on paper, that was the impetus for developing OSR Beyond. And so OSR Beyond, still in progress on that. If you want to check it out, you can go to osrbeyond.com, sign up for the email or whatever. But yeah, we're trying to make character lockers for all of these OSR games. Well, turns out we don't need to, I guess, for most of them. Although I heard Shadow Darklings is like an OSR character generator for Shadow Dark, but I don't know if it's a locker. I think it's just a generator. This is like what I found with Total Party Kill too. It's like Total Party Kill will generate a character, but you can't store it, you can't change it.
No, yeah, you gotta just write that down or it's gone.
Kind of useful to have that character sheet on your phone, you know, like just being able to bloop bloop bloop. So we've been playing Lamentations of the Flame Princess with Austin. Well, I've been playing Lamentations of the Flame Princess. I think you played once and were like, this is not for me.
Yeah, I just wasn't feeling it. Yeah. I don't think it was the game or anything. It was just the world and where I was at that point. Yeah. I was like, I'm just not feeling into it.
Yeah. The bar hack is a pretty unique experience where like we're literally hunting down witch princes for like a wrathful Church of the Sun across the ocean. It's pretty...
No, I think the world was fine.
Well, it's pretty colonial.
Like
if I had to be honest, it felt a little colonial.
I just like don't always have the energy to like get into that new space and then like learning a new game and stuff. I was kind of just like, I work full time now.
Oh wow. I'm sorry, you have to work.
It's fine. I work from home at a computer, so sometimes in my off time, I also don't want to spend hours at a computer.
Yeah, that's fair.
We were playing, like, virtually.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, let me just turn around, go to the bathroom, and get some water, and then sit right back down here.
They're here now. We could play in physical space if you wanted to at some point.
But there's people that don't live here who are playing the game.
Yeah, it's like Andrew.
What about?
He can come over.
Wasn't Austin's cousin playing too?
Oh, he was. He stopped playing with us.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not available. So, I'll invite you next time we play.
I assumed he didn't live in Vancouver though.
He doesn't. He lives somewhere.
Yeah.
Else in Canada, in BC probably. But yeah, next time we play, I'll see if you get the energy for it. Come upstairs and we'll all play together in meat space.
I mean, my character dropped out a long time ago. I don't.
It's fine. Andrew's making a new character right now.
Oh.
Like everybody's like retiring their level because we all got to like level 6 almost.
Okay.
So I'm gonna keep Lanston around just because, I don't want to be like. I don't want to basically start over with the whole group.
Did you die? Why are you making new characters?
Barnabas is making a new character because he wants to play something else.
Okay.
And he wants his character, Barnabas, to be our priest when we go back to town. So basically he's retiring him to safety.
Okay.
So that we'll have a priest to go back to who can like heal us and stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the bar hack. Do what we want. It's a West Marches.
Sure.
Do what you will. It's fun.
You've actually been doing way more playing than DMing lately.
Oh, yeah.
When's the last time you even DM'd anything?
Oh, probably work.
And, like, how's that been? Like,
I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. One of the things that I had become kind of acutely aware of while DMing and then also while playing is that DMs are notoriously bad players. They tend to be pretty rules lawyery. They have their own opinions about how things should go.
Rules lawyery.
Yeah, rules lawyers. They tend to be pretty they want to direct the story in ways that they feel are good. So most of the times that I see problem players on the internet, they are describing a DM who is playing.
Oh, ouch.
They
don't know how to be a player, apparently.
So it's a dynamic, right? Like as a player, you're kind of offloading your responsibility for the world to the DM. Mm-hmm. And as a DM, it can be hard to do that. Like, you're used to being on that side of the table, so you're used to the world kind of being in your hands. And then to just say, well, I'm just playing this character who is powerless and has to deal with the way the world works, according to this DM. If you disagree, it's painful. And I think you felt this when you were playing Headstrong Cute, where you were like, oh my god, this is frustrating.
Yeah.
But as a DM, you don't just feel frustrated. You're like, that's a bad call. Like, what are you, a shitty DM? You know what I mean? It's literally, these are the emotions that rise up inside of you. And so one of the things that I really wanted to challenge myself to do over the last year was to play in more games with more diverse DMs and put myself into situations where I would have to confront those emotions, deal with them, and continue to admire, respect, and learn from these other DMs. Because I think one of the traps you get into as a DM is feeling like you're the best DM. That's just normal. All your players tell you, oh, that was so much fun, that was great, nobody ever has negative feedback, And so you're like, oh, well, I must be the best DM on the planet then, And then you're not, right? But neither is Matt Mercer. Right, neither is Brendan Lee Mulligan. They're great DMs. They bring a lot to the table. They do something, that's valuable. But I think Austin was saying this, and he nailed the point, which is that as the DM with 4 other players, you're bringing 20% of the fun, right? It's really the players engaging with the world and bringing out the conflict in the story and all that stuff that creates the rest of the fun at the table. And if it's the camaraderie or the interactions or the jokes, or the snacks. Like, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be within the game. Part of it is just friends hanging out.
Yeah.
That really brings that together. So, but one of the more consistent games that I've been playing in is Blueholm, which is a take on a very classic, basic Dungeons and Dragons game. And it's run by Tess, who is the author of some modules. I'll put the links in the info of where to find her stuff. But she's been running Tunnels and Trolls for decades. Like, literal decades this woman's been. Probably... She's probably been running games for as long as games have existed. She's, like, very seriously equipped and qualified on all this stuff. She's run, like, Dungeon Crawl Classics and Tunnels and Trolls. Monster, I think, is another one that she's run and written for. And then now she's running Blueholm. And I've been playing with her, and, bless her, she's amazing DM. But here's a woman who has 50 years of experience running games, and her ums and uhs are constant, So, like, as a DM, one of the things that I've really practiced on is reducing the ums and uhs in my running, right? So, experiencing a DM who has that characteristic, it's challenging because I recognize it as a flaw in myself. But if I take that aside and I get past it and I see what she's doing as a DM, her games are fucking astounding, right? She's weaving together adventures from all over the place, from Dungeon Crawl Classics to JP Coover. She's got all these different adventure modules where she's pulling resources from and stitching them together in a super cohesive way and getting us through these adventures. It feels like it's exploration. It feels super rich. The combats are like, what is it? She was talking about how we, like, beat the snot out of her monster that she was expecting to be way harder. And I was like, but we were terrified. Like, yes, we won the fight, and yes, we won it easily, but we did so because we went in cautiously, because we were afraid. We were, all of us, like, we need to prepare for this because we're scared of that encounter. And she was like, yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, you weren't being loosey-goosey with it because you were like, oh, one of us will die.
Exactly.
You've had, like, party members die or nearly die in that game, haven't you?
My dwarf died.
Yeah, that's right.
My dwarf died fairly early, actually. It was like the third or fourth session we played, and my dwarf character, Ragpal, died in that game. And yeah, like, that was frustrating, right? It was a frustrating moment. I had to get over it. And I think, it's funny, I was talking, I think, with Tess about that very thing, about, like, how his character dies, you get mad about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's normal to get mad about it. You get over it. But, like, your first instinct is, well, that's unfair. Why did my character have to die?
Yeah.
Why did that fucking priest die? He has less hit points, and he's the jerk who didn't heal me. It's like, or these monsters not know what they're doing. They don't know what cleric when they see one, and that's that inner DM talking, kind of. He's like, well, I would have done it differently. And he would have done it differently for my benefit because I'm a jerk. But, yeah, so I've been enjoying playing. I'm also playing in a 5e game that my friend Trey just started. It's a heavily modified Rime of the Frost Maiden campaign, and it's 5e. And that's interesting because I have not played a lot of 5e recently. It's been a while since I played any 5e. Mm-hmm. And so going back into 5e and playing, I'm playing a cleric of Ilmater, goblin cleric of Ilmater. And so, like, I'm kind of a healing cleric-y guy, but I can cunning action, so I can, like, it's not cunning action, it's the other thing. But basically, I can, like, as a bonus action, I can disengage or hide.
Oh, right, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because goblins can just be doing that shit.
Yeah.
And, like, so I'm kind of like a healer with, like, a little bit more survivability, because I can be kind of skulky. But it's been pretty fun. Actually, it's been really fun. He's using Tabletop Simulator to run that game. And so the environment is all 3D minis and all this stuff, but in a virtual space. And so that's been really wild, kind of seeing software used and really effectively, I think. So that's been pretty cool. But the other players in that are, I think, mostly in Colorado. They're all friends of his, and other places. And I don't know any of them. So it's, it's a soup of people. And I think he's got like 8 players now. So it's getting pretty wild. But that's my Tuesday nights. And again, amazing DM. I'm really impressed with how he runs his games. Are there things that I see that, my inner DM is like, oh, I would do that differently, or gosh, wasting a lot of time here, like things like that. And yeah, those emotions still come up, and I still have to acknowledge them and recognize them and put them down and go, okay, fine, feel that way, a little inner DM, but how to, how can I acknowledge and reinforce the fun that the DM is trying to have as a player? How can I be that 20% on the player side that the DM needs?
Yeah, I think that's something that's important to remember, and that, like, it was a struggle, but a good struggle when we did the Troika actual play, is like, I was never really like mad at you, like I could be upset about the situation, but like at the same token, we're on the same side, like it's not the DM versus the player or versus the rules or whatever, we're like, we're both just trying to make it work. I think as long as you recognize that, I think that's where probably people get a lot of bitter, sour feelings, is they want to blame something. So there's a blame the DM. Or vice versa.
Yeah, no, totally. And like, I mean, there's definitely times where the DM will blame the players.
Yeah.
For like, oh, nobody's having fun because they didn't follow the clues.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you made the clues too hard to
too clever
follow.
or something. Yeah.
And this is classic DM blunder, right? Is like, oh, I put it behind a perception check and everybody failed. And like, oh, okay, well, your dice roll says your story's not happening, so figure out something else to do tonight. Rule number 1, if you need them to find it, just have them find it. Like, it is not, you do not need to put a roll
What
there.
was your quantum ogre or something?
Yeah, the quantum ogre is a good example of the, moving the thing where it needs to be. But there's a lot of, there's still, it's a very divisive concept, of like putting the stuff where it needs to be for the party to get to it, as opposed to establishing the world as it is and then letting them find it. But then you've got this out in the shape of a random encounter table where, like, okay, I roll on the table, whether they go left or right, it's kind of irrelevant. The next random encounter they hit is going to be this ogre. You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, there's kind of a meta question there as to whether or not that's a legitimate concern for people. But I think when you're planning a game and running a game, like, exploration should be the pillar that you're going through, and then combat is like an attrition. You're basically saying, like, a combat is introduced because the players are exploring someplace that's dangerous, and there's something there is going to try and stop them. But the real objective is to reduce their resources so that they can't continue to explore without risking loss of life or limb. Right.
That kind of just made me think, like, what are some, like, pillars of role-playing games or world building or DMing or whatever that, like, you think are essential, other, like, without them, like, that's why people's things crumble or don't go well?
Well, I think, like, Dungeons and Dragons is built on 3 pillars. Like, that's the banner, right?
Like, well known.
Yeah, exploration, combat, and social.
Gotcha, yeah.
And so, I think we had this conversation kind of in our last episode where Austin and I were talking about how the exploration pillar is really the pillar of these games, because every social interaction should be telling you something about the world or the people in it. Every combat interaction can tell you something about the creatures in the world, and usually leads to more exploration, right? It's just giving risk to how exploration works.
It's the Venn diagram. That's where everything meets.
Right. And exploration is the game, and there's these other things. And you can have, there's an overlap between social and combat too that can happen. Mm-hmm. But I think at the end of the day, exploration is the core pillar of Dungeons and Dragons, in that everything about the world, like, you're playing in this world, so no matter what you do in it, you should be learning something or finding out things about it and exploring it. That's kind of the fun of the game, you know, like.
So have you ever seen anyone ignore that and just try to make it like all combat?
Oh, you totally can.
And have it all fall apart, though?
Arguably, Tunnel Goons kind of did that,
okay.
right? Arguably, Morkborg kind of did that, where it was like, okay.
But do you like, is that a failing of the systems? Like, does that ultimately end up working out? A preference?
I don't know that it's really a preference. I think it really doesn't. You're kind of realistically, you're not playing a role-playing game at that point.
Okay.
You're playing like a combat simulator.
Turn-based combat. Maybe we'll be playing Pokemon.
Right.
Except Pokemon has exploration.
But the battle system in Pokemon doesn't.
Yeah.
Right? So, but you can use... This is actually a really good example. So Pokemon, if you're in a battle in Pokemon, right, like initially you don't know anything about the world. But the first time you encounter a Pokemon with a certain type, and your type is strong or weak against that type, you learn about the rules of the world. And so you can infer from that other rules and like other interactions. And that's kind of what I feel like the exploration component of the combat system is, right? So like in Dungeons & Dragons, the first time you fight a troll, first of all, your DM should not be describing it as a troll, right? You should be describing it as a huge green creature covered in warts with dreadlocks and wild red eyes.
Right.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't know that fire damage is the only thing that'll kill it.
Right.
As a new player.
The first time you watch something regenerate, right?
You're like, oh,
hit points. Like, you should see that and go like, oh, the fuck is going on, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's meta-knowledge that a troll regenerates and that the only way to prevent that regeneration is with fire or acid damage. But, like, finding that out, how you explore that, right, is part of how the combat system can be used to generate exploration. It's possible to fail at running a game in almost every way. Like, you can do everything right and the game can still not be fun.
Okay.
Right. The game is one of the reasons I think Austin kind of highlighted that point about you're 20%. No matter what you do, you're the dungeon master. You're only 20%. You're only one out of the number of people at the table. If nobody's carrying the weight, right? If
20%'s a fail.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and really, 70%'s not great either.
That is
right?
a D-.
Exactly. Like it is. It's very much like a grading scale. You really want to have, you know, your players need to be invested in having a good time at the table. If they're not, then you probably should not play. You know, play something else. Play Quest Crawl. Quest Crawl is a great game for idle, you know, like not super invested. You can just have fun. It can just be silly. It's super, super fast. You get something like role playing out of it, but nobody's the boss. Nobody's in charge. So everybody can equally go nuts.
Have you ever been in a situation where like things weren't going well and like were you able to recover or pivot from that? Like,
absolutely. I think by and large, the times when I've come upon that situation, I was lucky enough to have found out ahead of time. So we didn't actually start playing, but I acknowledged that a certain player wasn't there. You know, they weren't ready. They weren't wanting.
Okay.
They were not in the headspace to be playing a game with their friends.
Gotcha.
And I just talked to them about it and was like, hey, you seem not into this today. Are you sure you want to play? Okay. You know, and just having that conversation and being open. And honestly, you know, a couple of times I was just like, okay, you know what? You can play. I'm not gonna spotlight you a lot. You just relax. You can be on your phone. You know, your character will attack when it needs to attack. I'm not going to put a lot of demands on you right now. We're just going to have a good time as though you're having a good time with us. Just try not to, you know, highlight the fact that you're just sitting there kind of idled out.
Right.
Other times, you know, like I've had combative players during game that were getting heated and having a hard time accepting the scenario. And again, pulling them aside, being like, okay, it's a game. We're here to have a fun time. I know this is super challenging for your character right now, but it's your character is challenged. If you're mad at me, let's have it out. You know, like, tell me what you're mad about. Like, let's do the thing. not always has that gone great, right? As you can't force people to talk about their feelings.
Sure.
You can only invite them.
Yeah.
And then how do you get through those conversations? You have to be an adult, and the other person has to be an adult too. That's harder to do than it sounds. Especially when you're the DM and you've got exactly. If the emotions are already up and the guns are already out, it can be very difficult. I have done some crazy bullshit where I've okay, this got fucked. This person is leaving now. This is when I was a teenager.
Sure.
So this person's leaving now, but we're going to continue playing with these new characters and just bust out some new characters and be like, we're going to tell this other section of this story with these pre-mates I had from this other thing that I've been wanting to do.
And that works.
And so we all had fun.
Okay.
Worked.
Sure.
Yeah, we had our little time, rolling dice and killing monsters. That was great. But I was a teenager. I certainly didn't handle that party's feelings with enough grace.
Okay.
And I certainly didn't, give my players enough info about what was happening before it was like, oh, well, we're changing. We're just going to play this other game now. We got through the day. We were still friends afterwards.
That's good.
But, yeah, sometimes that's all you get. So, I think at a certain point, there was a long period where I didn't play role-playing games at all. I was married and had kids and was doing stuff. And then coming back to role-playing as an adult, in your 30s, it's just a very different... You're looking for different things in the game, honestly. You're looking for different things in your media and your entertainment. You change as a person, and that's reflected in how you play and how you interact with games like this. And so, acknowledging that it's just a game, that people's lives are more important by definition, saves you a lot of pain. I think when I was younger, if you were late for a session or you missed a session, I'd be furious, but I was a jerk when I was a kid, and now, as a grown-up, it's like, oh, okay, I just got a text 5 minutes after we started from one of my players that they can't make it because whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, we'll catch you next time. I'm going to put your character on ice, no big deal.
Yeah.
Being cool about it and being cool about everything really is the way better.
Yeah, or you can just die mad about it.
Exactly. I don't have the energy to be pissed at you about a fucking game that we're playing. And notoriously, right? We have our friend Andrew, who is notoriously late for everything in his life. That's just who Andrew is. It's part of his DNA. And we make fun of it. We all have a joke about it. He knows we're joking about it. We joke about it with him, Life
goes on.
What's that?
Life goes on.
And life goes on. Yeah, nobody's mad about it. Although I've become very good at calling out, did you text Andrew hours before the event to make sure that he knows that it's happening and he's confirmed and he's going to show up at some point. Yeah. We've even got him to show up on time for things once or maybe once.
He's capable of showing up on time.
Yeah, totally. Well, and for stage stuff, for acting stuff. Absolutely.
I mean, there are some things you just can't be late for.
Right, it's true.
There's the risk analysis when it comes to that. I've also been running around last minute kind of person at times in my life, and it's so stressful. So
it is.
Sometimes it's I'm either way late or stupid early. There is no in between. Yeah. But the really early is just to try to fight that person who is sitting around with no pants on and being oh shit, I gotta get ready.
Yeah. And that is where we will leave you, pantsless. And are you ready? Thanks for hanging out with us for the last hour. And yeah, I hope you will subscribe to our podcast and our YouTube channel, Watcher DM. And thanks again, Alicia, for coming on and being a guest. And I hope you will come and do this more often. It was fun hanging out with you and blah-blahing for an hour and getting to get your inner insights.
Yeah, sure.
You're just a lovely person, and I appreciate your spending time with me.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody, stay weird. And, yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Episode 5, baby! Here we go!